Alright guys, so I'm gonna be honest. Reading this week's chapter of Black Clover, I am, like, confused as fuck. So, it starts off with Asta. He has the new sword, and he swings it, and somehow he sends off, like, a water magic attack that he borrowed from Noelle, which I got questions on this. Like, this is... I want to know more. I mean, I know they're not going to just tell us all this stuff up front, but, like, this is kind of out of nowhere. This is a little weird. But he somehow, he has a sword, and it somehow borrowed the magic of Noelle, and at this point, all of his other teammates are trapped by Mr. Ice Guy, and so he pretty much does this water attack to Mr. Ice Guy and deals a good bit of damage. Obviously doesn't take him out. But then he does this whole, like, he looks down and he has an ice shard in his stomach and he collapses. And then his rival guy, I'm starting to learn their names one by one, but his friend busts out of the ice to go and save Asta, who's about to be dealt a final blow, because Mr. Ice Guy, of course, is not down for the count at this point, obviously. And he breaks out. He's not going to make it in time. Then, out of nowhere, poof, a fairy. Where this thing came from, I don't know. I think it has something to do with Yuno's power, because this fairy thing comes out, and it just blows. It's like, and it blows some magical fairy dust, whatever, and it fucks up Mr. Ice Guy. Like, he is on a whole other level of fucked up. He got his shit pushed in, literally, and he's done. He's just done. And then this fairy disappears, and I guess Yuno looks in his book, and he sees the scripture from that scroll of, like, a chapter or two back, that just where the text on the scroll just disappeared, and I guess it's now in his book, and he has this fairy now. I think it's in Yuno's book. Like, this is weird, and I think that's how I understood it. This text is now in Yuno's grimoire, I guess is what they call him, his magical book, and it's in his book now. And this fairy went in his book. I guess this fairy appeared because of Yuno, and now Asta's on the ground. And once the fight's done, the sword that Asta had that used Noelle's magic somehow, have some questions on that. Anyway, the sword goes up, like, floats up on its own and goes into, I'm guessing, Asta's grimoire, his old busted up ass grimoire, and, like, goes into his book. And then pretty much at that point everything starts going to shit and the dungeon is collapsing. And that's pretty much where it ends. This is a real this chapter got straight to the point. Like, they fucked the dude up within just, like, a couple of pages. I think within, like, 10 pages they fucked this dude up, Mr. Ice Guy, and then it starts collapsing, and then it pretty much ends with the dungeon collapsing and they need to get the fuck out. I got a lot of questions on this one. This one was just... This chapter raises a lot more questions than anything else. Was kind of confusing. I had to read this chapter about, like, 3 or 4 times just to see if I had everything right, because Asta has the sword, and he somehow was able to borrow Noelle's magic, and then Asta gets knocked down, and Yuno summons a fairy somehow, and then Asta's sword goes in his book. Like, I am confused on how this works. Like, did Asta and Yuno get some new power somehow? Because Asta got this new sword. They found this new sword, and then I guess Yuno gets a fairy that does shit, some badass shit, obviously, because it was just like, and then Mr. Ice Guy just got his shit pushed in. I think that's what happened. This was kind of a confusing chapter. Like I said, I had to read it a couple times. I'm still a little confused. Not a bad chapter, just raises a lot more questions than I think it really answers, and I just don't really know. This one is definitely, it's gonna take some explaining for me to really understand what exactly happened in this chapter. This chapter had a lot of stuff going on with very little information. And this is one of those chapters where I feel like for now I'm going to give this chapter like a I'm going to give it like a 6 out of 10 because it's a slightly above average chapter. Some cool stuff happened. I mean, we got to see the fairy, we got to see that somehow Asa is able to use Noelle's magic and whatnot, but it was just it also moved very quickly. A lot of stuff happened very quickly, and it felt like there couldn't have been much explanation or story put in this chapter. And that's the thing. This is one of those chapters where for now I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. On its own, it's not a fantastic chapter. In the next chapter, if we get some more information and some more story behind it, then it'll help this chapter boost its score up a little bit, because then finally all this shit makes sense. But as a standalone chapter, it's slightly above average, and that's pretty much it. But thank you guys for watching this video. I honestly, it's one of those chapters where I'm just like, huh? What? But thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you guys have any ideas on how I can improve these videos, let me know in the comment section below. And thank you all so much for the love and support on all the previous videos. I appreciate it a whole hell of a lot. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. I am out.